Lovely. I'm Corbin. I'm from Indianapolis. I apologize, this presentation is going to be in English. I did not have time to translate it, and if I did, that'd be probably sad. So we're going to talk about scoliosis today. Scoliosis is a little history. So it comes from this word scoliosis in ancient Greek, which means like a bend or a curvature. It's first documented by Hippocrates around the middle 20th century. It's a good old picture of someone with scoliosis. Scoliosis, it's a three-dimensional abnormality that occurs usually idiopathically, where the spine becomes curved in more than one place or more than one place away from the midline. It's often accompanied by like rotation of the spinal column, and so because of that, it's very unique to the person. Like we'll look at some curves in a bit, but it's also very unique to the person because it's a three-dimensional thing. And the curvature normally is going to be like a C or an S curve. There's a few kinds. So it is relatively uncommon. It affects about 3% of the population, regardless of where you are. I'll talk about that a bit more in a minute. So 1.5, 3% of the population. So there are like 5 types of pathology. There's idiopathic, which the onset is normally between ages 10 and 15. And at this stage, it's normally girls that will present a higher probability of getting it. And this happens because they have growth spurts, and we'll talk about that in a minute. The second one is early onset before 5 years of age, which boys present higher probability for that. Third is congenital. It's like an abnormality. If you have an extra vertebrae or if they're fused together. Let's see. Yeah. And number 4 is neuromuscular. So like an underlying nerve condition like cerebral palsy or muscular dystrophy, which this is probably the most rare one. But number 5 is you do see this more often like in older people. Especially I've seen it more in older women. When they get this degenerative scoliosis, and so it's like wear and tear of being alive for that long. It's just the gravity pulls down. It's degenerative. Okay, so the etiology of scoliosis is poorly understood and really inconclusive, so I'm not going to talk very much about it. Like the Shriners Research Hospital for Children was like the first place to actually identify a gene for it, this CHD7. But then again, it's not very conclusive if that's the case. But yeah. So as I said earlier, it universally affects 1.5 to 3% of populations. Like for example. There was a study that was done in like mainland China, taking statistics of people who had scoliosis in this denser population. Then they went to this other place, this Chongming Island, and the percentage was a little bit less, but it's still relatively the same. So it's between 1.5 to 3. In the United States, it's 3%. 85% of cases occur between ages 10 to 15. Due to like rapid growth spurts at a time in development where genetic and environmental influences play a really big role in development. Females have growth spurts that have growth spurts before postural musculoskeletal maturity, thus putting them at a much greater risk for this. This is like my favorite part. So this is like evolutionary considerations. Scoliosis is something that you see uniquely in humans. You don't see it really in monkeys. You don't see it in apes. It's quite interesting. It's hypothesized to be part of like human morphology and transitioning into bipedalism, so walking on 2 feet. There are some monkeys that do have some anatomical differences, but the reason why it's not really conclusive to say that you can see it in monkeys is because they have just a very different anatomy. Like some apes have anatomical differences resulting in shorter or less movable lumbar spines, and so it's not going to really see that there. Let's see. Or for example, like old world monkeys. I'm not going to say this word. They have, what am I saying here? Yeah, much less flexible. But it's only, a better hypothesis for this is that it is, a byproduct of like strong natural selection for bipedalism. And so at a time, having a scoliosis was an evolutionary advantage when the first humans were, standing up so they could, see out and see further for hunting and gathering and for protection. And it was actually an advantage at one time, is what the hypothesis would say. It allowed prehistoric humans to have just better advantages in survival. Yeah, the early humans, like the Homo erectus and Australopithecus, displayed actually a much higher frequency of scoliosis than you would see today. They were some of the first, humans to really present bipedalism. So, yeah, evolutionary biologists hypothesized that scoliosis was an evolutionary advantage, transitioning into bipedalism, and then over time, natural selection favored slight reduction in lumbar length, thus, efficiently or favoring spines that were more efficient, that could move, and that would not develop the curvature. So, now we're going to talk about a few different types of curvatures. So, I'm going to go through these. It is three-dimensional abnormality, and so it's not like this is like if you have one curve, it's not going to be. It's going to be different for every person. So, this is like a King Type 1 curve. It's an S-shaped curve where the thoracic and lumbar spine cross the midline. The lumbar curve is going to be more defined right here. And a King Type 2, it's another S-shaped curve. Thoracic and lumbar, both cross the midline, but there's going to be a more profound thoracic curve and a more flexible lumbar curve. Type 3, this is a C curve, thoracic curve where lumbar region does not cross over the midline, and it's called an overhang when it's on that side. Type 4 is another C curve. It's a long thoracic curve. In this one, the L5 vertebrae is centered over the sacrum, and the L4 vertebrae is actually going to tilt into the thoracic curve. Type 5 is an S curve. It's a double thoracic curve at the top. The T1 vertebrae is tilted into the concavity of the curve, and the upper curve supported by the side of the bend, really. That makes any sense. Now we're going to talk about screening. Screening is something that's like really easy. It's very, very easy to do. They used to have, in the former times, school teachers used to do it, like school administrators knew how to do it, nurses did it, teachers did it. It's very easy to learn. But the main takeaway in screening people is that you're going to look for is asymmetry. If someone's like little postural differences that could indicate a spine abnormality or something like that. So something that and I'll give a demonstration of this in just a minute. This is a good one. It's a forward bend. So you're going to have the patient with the palms pressed together, with their back facing you, and they're going to bend forward, with their shirt off, and so you can look for some asymmetry, or if you see like a higher rib cage on one side, uneven lower back, or like the hips are higher than another. Another one is if they're just standing straight. You can see if like one arm, if they're standing straight and one arm, deviates a little bit further away from the abdomen than normal, or from the body than normal, that's completely indicative of that. Uneven shoulder blades, more of a rounded back right up here, or if one shoulder is higher than another, again with this theme of asymmetry. This one is pretty interesting. So this one takes really careful observation, and usually if you have to observe someone for a little while, I think too, especially in kids, because they move around a lot, and if the shirt's like this, it doesn't mean that they have a problem. But if you see consistently people that your shirt fits a little bit weird, or what, like, you wear a different kind of shirt and it still fits that way, it could be just how their shape is, and that could be indicative of scoliosis. So you're looking for, again, asymmetry, uneven pants, like on one side, like one comes up too much and the other one's like really far down, uneven sleeves or an uneven hemline, like right here. Another one is you can observe the eyes and the ears, so observe the alignment of the facial features. So if like an eye is tilted, or the center of the eyes are out of alignment, or another cool one, I like this one, is if the inner ear is more forward than the shoulder, like, then that could also indicate that. So they're really easy things to look for, but the final one is when you observe someone walking and clearly you can see if they're limping, that's pretty ostensible. Tilt to one side, or if one leg is shorter than another. Just looking for these abnormalities in someone's gait. So again, with the theme of asymmetry. And it's really easy to do this. It doesn't really take much skill, but it really requires careful observation, and if you suspect something, take a picture of them and see what they're like in 6 months, or I don't know. But that's what they used to do in some scoliosis clinics in Wisconsin. But yeah. So the importance of screening. I say healthcare workers are one of the best choices for screening, due to the fact that patients, you come and see their pediatrician once or twice a year. And so you're not like a parent, which is around them every day. It's not going to necessarily notice these subtle differences, but if you're good at remembering, like you should, healthcare workers are going to be the best choice, because you will notice these little differences in the patients. It's really, really quick. It requires minimal training. This SSS is like school scoliosis screening, which is something that they used to do in the United States. But they actually don't really do it very much anymore, because it's a pretty rare thing to happen. But interestingly enough, although scoliosis is pretty rare, I have scoliosis, and one of the other volunteers here, yeah, she's got scoliosis as well. So it does happen, and you do see it a bit. But since they stopped doing it in schools, I never got one. And the only reason I found out that I had scoliosis was because when I was little, I fell out of a tree. And I fractured my spine, 2 of my vertebrae, and that's how they found the scoliosis. And I actually have a pretty significant curve, like a 45-degree, which is pretty significant. However, an X-ray is definitely needed for a diagnosis, or for it to be conclusive, and you should definitely meet with an orthopedic surgeon in order to get a proper diagnosis for that. But if you see something, Alright, so I'm going to show you what it looks like when when you do this, like bending forward, and you can look at my spine or look at my back and see it's a little bit different. So I'm going to make sure Alright, so I'm going to lift up my shirt, and you can welcome to take a look, and so you can see what it looks like. So just put hands together. Just like that. You can see some abnormalities. That's what it looks like. So there you go.